1 Samuel 26 1-27-6, through the Bible. Chapters 26-27. Theme: David again spares Saul's life. David retreats to the land of Philistia. David again spares Saul's life in the wilderness of Ziph. Note the contrast between Saul and David. Obviously Saul knows that David is God's choice, but he seeks to slay him. David recognizes that Saul is the anointed king, and he spares him. David again spares Saul's life. And the Ziphites came unto Saul to Gibeah, saying, Doth not David hide himself in the hill of Hachilah, which is before Jeshimon? Then Saul arose, and sent down to the wilderness of Ziph, having 3,000 chosen men of Israel with him, to seek David in the wilderness of Ziph. 1 Samuel 26 1-2. Here goes Saul on another campaign, another crusade, to try to destroy David. This is what happened. David fled into the wilderness, and Saul went after him. David was a great soldier and he knew the terrain, which made him an expert general. He also had loyal men who were willing to die for him and with him. Saul did not know the terrain. Added to that, his followers were not as loyal as they could be, and Saul certainly suspected them. David therefore sent out spies, and understood that Saul was come in very deed. 1 Samuel 26 4. David could not believe that Saul would come into territory that was unfamiliar to him. It was a military blunder of such proportions that David sent spies out to see if Saul really was in the area. His scouts reported that Saul was indeed in the wilderness. And David arose, and came to the place where Saul had pitched, and David beheld the place where Saul lay, and Abner the son of Ner, the captain of his host, and Saul lay in the trench, and the people pitched round about him. 1 Samuel 26 5. David was in a position to observe where Saul and his men were, while he and his men were able to hide in the wilderness. Then answered David and said to Ahimelech the Hittite, and to Abhishai the son of Zeruiah, brother to Joab, saying, Who will go down with me to Saul to the camp? And Abhishai said, I will go down with thee. So David and Abhishai came to the people by night, and, behold, Saul lay sleeping within the trench, and his spear stuck in the ground at his bolster, but Abner and the people lay round about him. 1 Samuel 26 6-7. David and Abishai went into Saul's camp and looked around. Saul was sleeping in a trench, surrounded by his men. At the head of his bed he had stuck his spear in the ground. Then said Abishai to David, God hath delivered thine enemy into thine hand this day, now therefore let me smite him, I pray thee, with the spear even to the earth at once, and I will not smite him the second time. 1 Samuel 26 8. Abishai was saying to David, If you just let me at him, I will strike him once. One blow is all I need, and you will be rid of your enemy. And David said to Abishai, Destroy him not, for who can stretch forth his hand against the Lord's anointed, and be guiltless? 1 Samuel 26 9. Once again David has the opportunity to kill Saul, but he refuses. He will not raise his hand against the Lord's anointed. David said furthermore, As the Lord liveth, the Lord shall smite him, or his day shall come to die, or he shall descend into battle, and perish. 1 Samuel 26:10. David says, God will have to take care of him. David is acting upon the principle found in Hebrews 10:30, Vengeance belongeth unto me, I will recompense, saith the Lord. The Lord forbid that I should stretch forth mine hand against the Lord's anointed, but, I pray thee, take thou now the spear that is at his bolster, and the cruse of water, and let us go. So David took the spear and the cruse of water from Saul's bolster, and they gat them away, and no man saw it, nor knew it, neither awaked, for they were all asleep, because a deep sleep from the Lord was fallen upon them. 1 Samuel 26 11-12. What David did was not difficult. He took Saul's spear and cruse of water, and no one wakened because the Lord had caused a deep sleep to fall upon Saul and his men. Then David went over to the other side, and stood on the top of an hill afar off, a great space being between them. 1 Samuel 26:13. Now David withdrew from Saul's camp, but he did not go back to his men. Instead he went way over on the other side of Saul's camp and stood on the top of a hill. It was a place where he could easily escape if anyone came after him. And David cried to the people, and to Abner the son of Ner, saying, Answerest thou not, Abner? Then Abner answered and said, Who art thou that criest to the king? And David said to Abner, Art not thou a valiant man? And who is like to thee in Israel? Wherefore then hast thou not kept thy lord the king? For there came one of the people in to destroy the king thy lord. This thing is not good that thou hast done. As the Lord liveth, ye are worthy to die, because ye have not kept your master, the Lord's anointed. And now see where the king's spear is, and the cruse of water that was at his bolster. And Saul knew David's voice, and said, Is this thy voice, my son David? And David said, It is my voice, my lord, O king. 1 Samuel 26:14-17. Frankly, I think David is being sarcastic with Abner, who is Saul's captain and should have been protecting him. David is ridiculing Abner. David is telling him that the king could have been destroyed. About this time the king and his men begin to wake up, and they wonder what has happened. Then David says, Where is Saul's spear and cruse of water? They are gone. David probably held them up and said, Look, I've got them. I could have slain Saul, but I did not. And that is the important thing, David did not slay the king. He had a wonderful attitude about the whole thing. God was going to handle this affair as far as David was concerned. It may be easy for us to criticize David, but do we today let God handle our enemies? We try to take things in our own hands and try to answer our accusers and deal with them ourselves. God says, Let me handle the situation, and you walk by faith. Trust me. We are going to find out that David trusted the Lord, and he took care of Saul in time. Then Saul said to David, Blessed be thou, my son David, thou shalt both do great things, and also shalt still prevail. So David went on his way, and Saul returned to his place. 1 Samuel 26:25. Although again Saul admitted he was wrong and gave up his pursuit of David, David knew it was only a temporary respite. We find that David's heart is becoming very discouraged. He is weary of this continual running away and hiding in the dens of the earth. David retreats to the land of Philistia. And David said in his heart, I shall now perish one day by the hand of Saul. There is nothing better for me than that I should speedily escape into the land of the Philistines, and Saul shall despair of me, to seek me any more in any coast of Israel, so shall I escape out of his hand. 1 Samuel 27:1. This is obviously a departure from the high plane of faith that characterizes the life of David. It is a period of just letting down. We find that the same thing happened to Abraham. It happened to Isaac, and it happened to Jacob. In fact, it seems that most of God's men have had this low period in their lives. There is a message for you and me in this chapter. Perhaps this very day you are faced with problems. Perhaps you have been in a dark valley for a long time, and you wonder if you will ever come through it. There seems to be no solution to your problems. Well, if it is any comfort to you, there are many others who have been in the same valley. It is a well-worn route. This man David walked that path long before you and I got here. This is one of the reasons David has been such a help to me in my own Christian life. I can certainly sympathize with him. It looks as though he may spend the rest of his life running and will finally be slain by Saul. And David arose, and he passed over with the 600 men that were with him unto Achish, the son of Maok, king of Gath. And David dwelt with Achish at Gath, he and his men, every man with his household, even David with his 2 wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the Carmelitess, Nabal's wife. And it was told Saul that David was fled to Gath, and he sought no more again for him. And David said unto Achish, If I have now found grace in thine eyes, let them give me a place in some town in the country, that I may dwell there, for why should thy servant dwell in the royal city with thee? Then Achish gave him Ziklag that day, wherefore Ziklag pertaineth unto the kings of Judah unto this day. 1 Samuel 27:2-6. Here is David, discouraged, despondent, doing something he should not have done. He leaves the land of Israel and goes to live among the Philistines. There is nothing in this chapter that would reveal that David is a man of God.